Brad Kilgore.
How we doing?
Welcome to the damn show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We don't know each other that well yet. Though I met you in San Diego.
I think we were sitting on a panel near each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, we were on a panel together at the Chef Con conference, Anti-Con.
The anti-convention.
The anti-convention.
I think they did a great job.
Yeah, they crushed it. I love those guys. We do a lot of work with them. But anyways, for myself and for the audience, I know some of your background because we did some research, but I didn't hear from you. So maybe just a little bit of like, where you come from. And also, if you don't mind, I mean, we're sitting in one of your restaurants now, but just a general landscape of like, here's all the projects that you have right now.
So Brad Kilgore is my name, originally from Kansas City, Kansas side. Grew up pretty blue-collar Midwest family. Started working in a diner at 10 years old. It was Christmas break, 6th grade. So my best friend's older brother got a job there, and we always did whatever he did. And steamrolled into, I just kept working in kitchens. So 37, I've been working in kitchens for 27 years at this point. And made my way up all the way from McDonald's to Little Caesars to three-star Michelin chefs. And now I landed in Miami about a dozen years ago at this point, via Chicago previously. So
I learned how you came to Miami, but maybe just what are the current projects you have live? You had a bunch of other restaurants as well,
Right.
But right now, what's
Sure,
live
yeah.
on your plate?
We're sitting in Oise Ristorante. So Oise is a casual Italian Japanese called itameshi. And I've taken sort of that red sauce American approach, pomodoro, chicken parm, carbonara, and then we put our twist onto it. That's what we're having here at Oise. We're in Wynwood, which is our kind of like Williamsburg, if you will. It's our Brooklyn.
It's funny this is my first time in Miami.
Yeah.
So I have some questions about Miami, by the way. But when I got to Wynwood, I was like, this feels like Williamsburg 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, nicer, but the vibe and the buildings, all the art.
Right. All these buildings are newer rehabs, not just like from the 20s or even older, right? So I've had businesses in Wynwood now almost 10 years going back. I had a restaurant called Altar here. That was my flagship for a long time. And now I have a brasserie called Marigolds. So we kind of wanted to be that flower bursting out of the concrete jungle, which is Wynwood, which is, city life. And it's sort of a modern take on a brasserie. I try to tell people the food is recognizable, but still new.
Yeah. Before we get into by the way, all good. We can edit that out in the background and all that jazz. And this is a eat the mic kind of thing, just so you know.
Eat the mic?
Yeah, that close.
Okay, cool.
I have a couple questions about Miami because first time I've ever been here. Just one to start. What's up with the chickens?
Oh, the chickens and the roosters. It's a Cuban thing. So Cubans in general, maybe it's also Dominican. I'm not going to get into exactly who it is, but it's known to be sort of coming out of Little Havana, which is right over the river here. And people, they have a chicken coop, and I think sometimes one gets away. And then like these little gangs start, and there's like a big rooster, and I mean, you don't try to pet them. Yeah, for sure. Don't worry about eating them. Just come by for dinner. I got you.
Do you find the eggs around?
I don't know. I just drive by, maybe a little bit faster.
Yeah,
it's a thing though. It really is.
Yeah, I mean they're everywhere. They're like wild.
They're feral chickens.
Yeah. Well, I was going.
I've gotten a lot of questions over the years, never about the chickens. I like that.
Yeah, it's my first time here.
Right.
I mean, I'm old. I'm 43, and I've
never seen a bunch of wild chickens running around.
I mean, not in this country.
This is the capital of Latin America, right?
Yeah.
North America starts at Broward County line.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it though.
It's a whole other world.
Yeah, it's
which is, I think, highly attractive. Like it's its own, like, has its own community, has its own way of doing things, saying things, ethos, and it's growing rapidly.
Yeah. I'm curious, how you think about the area that you're in this case, Miami, and how that affects how you grow as a chef, as an artist, as an artisan. do you feel like you are growing in a certain direction in a certain way because of the environment, that you're in here? Because it's obviously there's a certain type of cuisine, certain type of chefs. Like, would you be a different chef today if you didn't move to Miami and you stayed in Chicago?
Very simply, yes, absolutely. I think in general, you need to kind of adapt to your surroundings. But, in New York, it's say in New York or even back in Chicago, you have such a like grounded sort of fine dining based, and there's so many people and so many people where food is part of life and culture that you could, you can kind of do your style and there'll be people there that are attracted to it. Miami, it's on its come up. It's maybe mid come up right now. A lot of people gave me a lot of credit for this most recent kind of turn towards fine dining. I was doing the only tasting menu only restaurant in the city at one point, for years actually, and kind of put a little bit of respect to the up and coming next wave of chefs from Miami at that time. But there was a lot of flavors and things that I got introduced. Like Peruvian food wasn't part of my repertoire until I came down here. And I'm not a Peruvian chef, but the ingredients are fantastic, and can be inspiring. So, and at the same time, you kind of have to like, especially years ago, people were used to maybe like chimichurri and skirt steak, and that was like on almost every single menu, and ceviche and different things. And you might have to do that a little bit, but you could start giving it your own little twist and introducing it in different ways. And also people like when you go to a destination, because Miami used to be more of a destination, now it's its own culture. You have certain expectation. Like when you go to the Caribbean, you want to eat Caribbean food, right? So you had that connotation with food in Miami as well. Now, luckily, we've grown out of that and we're growing out of it rapidly. We have, Michelin is here. We have, Food of My Best New Chefs, knocking on the door of James Beard as well. So like we're like a adolescent teenager breaking out and like, going to university. That's how I see it.
Yeah, yeah, and it does sort of dictate like a different type of food. When you're a destination, you have to sort of like wow all the time. Whereas
it's kind of flashier.
Yeah. When it's a community restaurant, like people don't always want.
No, you just want good food.
Yeah, you just want something good.
That's so accurate, and we're definitely right in the middle of that. It's.
I mean, you can go with it if you want, man. It's all good.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just.
We ate. I took my leadership team to Marigold's on Sunday. I think it was awesome.
Thank you.
The thing that the thing I actually like the most, which I wouldn't have assumed because there's so many cool dishes on the menu, was the tortellini.
Yeah.
What? All right, I'm cooking a long time. What's double brown butter? Never heard double.
Oh, the agnolotti.
Yeah.
Agnolotti, yeah. So, double brown butter. So what browns in butter is the milk solids.
Yeah.
So you add dried milk solids to it while it's browning, and then you have to do it after you cooked out most of the moisture. If you do it before, you can, but it's a major pain. Do it before all of the milk, the moisture that's in the butter will actually soak up, and you'll get this thick paste. It's very annoying.
Yeah.
You'll probably burn the bottom before it breaks, and you want it to break. So what you want to do is you want it to break, separate, cook out the liquid, then add your dry milk solids, brown them all together, whisking the entire time, and then I put it into a VitaPrep blender afterwards.
Yeah.
Blend it super smooth because you still can get a little chalky. Then pass through a chamois.
So the actual dried milk powder also starts to caramelize?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. Is it equal parts actual brown butter?
No. By weight, because dry milk solids are so light. I think it's like less than 10% by weight. And then we infuse ours with sumac and Aleppo chili pepper. And sumac, because it is a spice and has oil, it can infuse, but also it's astringent. So it's almost like adding acid, like a vinaigrette, if you will.
Nice. It was really, really good.
Thanks.
The waiter was like, "Oh, you should get the agnolotti." I was like, "I don't want agnolotti today." And we were like, "Fuck it, we'll get it." And it was really fucking good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, so on the way over here, we were at Marigold's. We were going to record there. We ended up over here because you had an event today. We were talking about your kids.
Yeah.
Congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
How old's your second kid?
My son Liam is 21 months, and my daughter Gaia was born about 11 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I have a buddy who's got a daughter named Gaia. It's changes your world, obviously. How do you think it's changed? And maybe you're still like in the fucking weeds of it, so it's tough to, like step back. But Have you seen how being a parent has changed the way that you lead your team, the way that you cook, the way that you think?
Yeah, I think you start being a little bit more patient. But the tough part is in our industry, the clients aren't patient. So there really isn't too much time to balance that. And I know you hear and people say that. At the same time, we're kind of in the world of where people expect chefs and restaurants to be a little more accommodating and patient with their team members, which I naturally have always been a little bit more that direction. But the customers and the clientele are more educated and their expectations are higher than ever. So it's like imbalanced. And and I hope this answers your question, the way I approach that is I try to teach why. If you teach someone why you ask them to do like this very annoying, nuanced technique, then they'll go, oh, that's why I have to do that thing. It takes me like 30%, 50% longer because that's the end result. So I take the extra time in the front to teach them where my mind is when I created that. I was doing it right before this meeting. I was cutting chickens. I mean, I'm 25 years in. I'm still teaching people how to cut chickens. I don't think it'll ever end. Because I have a particular way of doing it. And this guy, he's been cooking for 15 years. His eyes just open like this, and now he's excited to do that.
Yeah. Do you find that you get more patience now because you have the kids?
With my kids,
with your staff, does it carry over to the staff? I did. I found that I
think I'm too early into it because they're just now hitting toddler. Like they've just been babies. Like of course they're babies. So they're the cutest thing in the world. They're already full. They have all my patience.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I guess that maybe I'm just not there yet to where.
Yeah,
my son's on the age of like right now he'll pull things off the shelf and it's still cute though.
Yeah, no, yeah. You're still in the
a little early, maybe
in the thick of it, but that's probably the biggest thing, other than time management.
What was your experience with that?
I mean, the biggest thing is just you realize that adults are kids. Like everybody is just like has the right intent, and they're that 99.9% of people in the world are good and just do dumb things. Yeah. Your kids start to do really dumb things, and you don't. You're not.
And dumb for our society, not necessarily in their head, right?
No, they're just exploring and they're just testing things out. But like, it's so easy to get mad and say, but you don't. You're like, oh my, you love them.
How do they know?
Yeah, they don't know. And then you realize like, oh, wait a second, especially because they don't even know how to express their emotions, which by the way, neither do we most of the time. That's why we go to therapy to figure out how we can say, what we're thinking. And, I started to realize that, that everybody, when they're upset or they're doing something that bothers me or that I was, that is a mistake, I'm like, I wonder what's going on with them right now. I didn't used to think that, because like, it was just very binary. It's like, okay, you screwed up. What the fuck? And now I'm like, did you have a bad day today? Like, did something happen with your wife or your boyfriend or girlfriend or, are you,
now you're looking for the root.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to what I was saying, the why.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What is the roots of the situation? When it's same for problem solving as it is for food prep. It's going back to how did this series of decisions get made in order for us to, come to this intersection of, an issue in the restaurant, whether it be food prep or operations. To me, before I get upset, I absolutely go down that like investigative route because I want to solve it so it doesn't happen again. If somebody's, purposefully doing things to bother someone else or hurt someone else or hurt the operation, that's where I'll get upset. But in general, there's usually just a mistake being made because humans make mistakes. We all do. I do. And finding that root is more important.
Yeah. I say it so much, but I still screw up all the time. Where someone makes a mistake and I'm just right into the what the hell? And there's always a reason behind it. Anyways, we're in Miami right now, and we just missed South Beach. You did an event for the Food and Wine Festival. What are your thoughts on that festival? I imagine you've been doing it for a while.
Right.
Like, what do you think? Like, what's the purpose of it? What's the goal? Like, what do you get out of it?
Yeah, South Beach Food and Wine, or Wine and Food Festival, I think is the official name. It's been going on a lot longer than I've ever been down in Miami. So I've participated in almost every year for the last 12, 13 years. This year I hosted Marcus Glocker. I'm a big fan. We've been just kind of, social media fans of each other, buddies, cross paths a few events here and there. Never had the chance to work together professionally or at an event. And he was my first invite, and he said yes, came down, and I haven't been to his new spot, Coleman, in New York, but it sounds amazing, looks fantastic. According to the food I just ate,
It's awesome. Yeah,
he
it's
cooked
really
the
good, man.
marigolds. It was delicious. Probably the best gougere I've ever had in my life. Looked like a cupcake. I wanted to eat a lot of them. Held myself to one, and that was great. So for me, my number one thing is for South Beach is to host a chef that like I appreciate, or I don't get to connect with, and invite them over. And I always ask them, like, don't come here and rewrite your book. Come here and bring your signatures, because then our local guys can try what your restaurant's like. It's transporting them, because I know a lot of times when chefs do collaborations, you want to put your best foot forward. Probably what's on your menu is your best foot forward, because like you've been cooking your whole life and this is what you're putting out to the world. And so I make sure my guest chefs like don't get all wrapped up and like, hey, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Bring your wheel with you. I want to try it that way too. So
Do you get business from doing the event? Like, are there like I always, every time we do these events, I've done a bunch of them. I'm always like, who's eating here? Who are these
Right.
people?
Okay, great question. I don't know if there's any traceable revenue that comes from any event I've ever done. Recently, I've been trying to, like, we have cards, come get a free this cocktail discount or something, like marketing, and we're putting different colored dots on them to see if we can track where they come from. And every market, especially in booming ones like Miami, it's just highly competitive, and it's not necessarily competitive on quality of product. It's placement, it's recognition, it's marketing, it's social media. It's well beyond, is the food good on the plate? It's so far beyond that these days. So Oise, I opened up this restaurant, I texted 120 people. That's it. That's how we opened it. And then we opened a couple days later, and within 10 or less services, I didn't know anyone in the dining room. And that just shows you the power of non-traditional marketing. I'm not that great at it. This is my first jab at that, but I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Well, you're probably gonna need a lot more now that you started this other company that I just learned about recently. This Pizza Freak.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what is it? How did it come to be? And also, let's just talk about frozen pizza in general.
Correct. Yeah, we can go on and on. So this is a several-year-old side project, kind of late pandemic project, whatever you want to label it. But in general, my good friend and now business partner, Matt McKinney, based out of Philadelphia, he's an equipment guy. That's how we know him. He reps like high-end chef equipment, foodie, sciencey stuff I'd nerd out on. And
like circulators and things.
Circulators, cryo vac machines, blast chillers, combi ovens, dry agers. And he's like, do you want to I have a bunch of equipment in a kitchen in Drexel University in Philadelphia that's just sitting there because the school's closed, COVID. Let's make something. What do you want to make? Frozen pizza. Okay, that sounds amazing. Everybody wants frozen pizza. I'm like, I wish I had better frozen pizza. And so we went on this mission. So I was emailing recipes based on percentages and my knowledge and Google Sheets and sharing, getting feedback, getting shipped pies and blanks and breads 900 miles down to Miami. Does it last? Doesn't make it. I've had some in the freezer for months and different things. And it started working, and that was good. And it's, it's kind of grandma style Detroit, if you will, as in it's rectangular and it's not Neapolitan, but it's called Pizza Freak Co. If you say it quickly, Pizza Frico. Frico is that crispy, cheesy edge around the outside. Well, we brought on Chef Brad Daniels, amazing chef. He has Tricini, just an Ambler outside of Philly, a veteran guy for like 10, 15 years. And he was helping us produce the recipes. Well, one, he's crazy talented, and we all just got along great. We're partners. All three of us are just partners now in this. And I haven't even done like a real campaigning posts or anything. We're in 6 grocery stores outside Philadelphia. We've got a couple really big contracts, and this is what I think is cool. It's great for your audience is that it's a restaurant quality product and it has 0% labor. You pull it out of the freezer, you put it in the oven, you have a cheese pizza that you can sell for $30. So with everyone's costs being high right now, labor, but then the client doesn't really want to spend any more money. You're kind of like riding this margin edge. Here comes meez, right? Helping you find that margin, right? The reaction we're getting from operators, it's like well beyond sort of the household product thing, right? So,
but I also heard it's really fucking good.
It's really good.
But
you can order
why
pizzafrico.com.
What is it about most frozen pizza? Usually you get a frozen pizza. I haven't thought about this, but okay. It's either kind of not like doughy and dry, but also chewy, or the cheese is like dried out. Or, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it goes wrong, but what has to go right?
We've studied this immensely. And okay, so there's a couple different types of frozen pizzas. When you're doing mass production pizza or bread dough, you need it to go through a machine to get stretched out and stamped out, and you get your perfect stamp, circle, square, whatever it may be. That's basically a cracker dough. That's like a dry dough that you might throw some chemical-based yeast in it and try to get a little puff out of it. That's dry. That's crap, Then we've all had those pizzas plenty of times. Then you go the other route where there's a famous pizza starts with a D and it's not delivery. So what they try to do is it rises in the oven. If you've ever made bread, it takes like all fucking day, and you definitely can't make it in 20 minutes from frozen. Well, they're trying to chemically leaven that through the heating process of the oven. You're going to get that gooey, gross, heavy dough. Yeah, it rose, but it's not good, right? So those are kind of the drastic ends of both. Ours is a super high hydration dough. It's very hard to work with. There's only a couple machines that do it. We do it by hand still. The machine that we want is $3 million. Pizzafrico.com. No, but
pizzafrico.com.
No, but it's very wet, and machines don't work well with wet dough. It's going to stick to the slicer, whatever, the cutter thing, and only Italian doughs get that wet and whatever. So we've gone down, we've been to Italy, we've looked at machines.
Wet, like 80% hydration wet, or
a little higher. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, you get how do you even work with it?
Well, and that's what gives us 72-hour cold fermentation. That's what gives us our loft. And at the same time, we designed patent pending what we call the freak frame, and basically exposes parts of the pizza. So when you bake it directly on your rack, you're crisping it. It's crisping it from the top to get the cheesy frico, crisping it, re-crisping it from the bottom because it was crispy when we baked it. And then the tagline that I've kind of come up with over having these questions and talking to people is, it's not a frozen pizza. It's a pizza that's frozen.
Yeah.
Because frozen pizza has it's like a bad word.
Yeah. So $3 million piece of equipment is the only one that will handle this hydration. What milestone do you need to hit to go buy that piece?
Right. Great questions. Those are all our conversations right now. Our current goal, and we're not that far off, it's kind of actually scary, is we want to do 1,000 pizzas a week based on where we're at. I've got an entire pallet on its way to Miami right now because we're launching it at Higher Ground and all over the Arlo Hotel where Marigold's is. And Higher Ground is our indoor outdoor lounge and event space. And we also already have it at the pool deck rooftop. And the response, we haven't even publicly gone with it, just a response from the hotel guests. It's moving faster than we expected. So it's a quality product, and people are like, when you have something that's solid, your team will sell it because they're confident, and then they can go and tell the customer, like, listen, just get the pizza. It's great.
Where does it ship?
Where does it ship?
Yeah. Like, where can you buy it anywhere in the country?
Basically right now, east of the Mississippi we've shipped it to Seattle, LA, West Texas, and those customers were willing to pay the shipping extra. It's not us. We don't make another dime. Yeah. We want our pizza to be $18 to $22, but FedEx is not cheap, right? Mm-hmm. So it's basically like Goldbelly.
Gotcha.
People are buying Goldbelly by the droves. We've eaten most of those pizzas, and
Goldbelly's we know expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive. We know where we stand quality wise, and that was our comp set. It was like, hey, people are paying $40, $50 for these famous pizzerias, And
So you go to the website and you can just order it from the website?
Yep. Yeah.
That would also, by the way, restaurants would be a dope staff meal. Just order pizza for go.
Two of my properties, actually. I have 2 other private clubs that I oversee. One of them is called the Concourse Club. Amazing. Boys with Toys. So basically it's a 2-mile racetrack with a super high-end fine dining F&B program. And we use the pizzas there as family meal. It's a great treat for the team, bring in 15 pizzas, bake them off. So
awesome. Well, I'm going to get some. Okay. So moving on, this is a obligatory question I ask. Just whatever, because of bees. But also I am always curious. And you're doing more projects now. So you're not at the restaurant right now. You're not going to be at any
not at
restaurants.
the same one every day.
Yeah. So how do you, and the first time I met you, now I'm recalling more, we were on that panel about, I forget what the panel was, but I remember hearing you talk about systems. I was like, oh, this guy definitely understands systems. So what do you do to maintain consistency? Like when you're not at the restaurant?
Sure. Not perfect. Always, I think we'll be seeking out the perfect answer or strategy to that because, in the end, we're a human business and humans do things, unlike robots. They do things naturally. So in order to avoid that, I try to eliminate human error with systems. The systems are a series of checks and balances. Like my prep sheets have a par set by the head chef, an inventory written down by the person who's on that station. You take the difference between that par and the inventory and you have the quantity needed to be prepped for the next day. And then that's handed to the chef. The chef then takes it and color codes it. Green, yellow, and red. Color codes it, hangs it on your station the next day when you come in. And because, some 7-day operation, lunch and dinner, different people working that station the next day. You might not even have an outside relationship. You're not texting with that guy, what have you. Red means do it first. Yellow means do it second. And green means do it third. The color coding kind of gives people, there's a lot of language differences, right? So it's like you don't have to read in the same language for that to like communicate over. Red is like intense. Like I need to knock off all those reds. It's almost like a mental state. Yellow is a little bit more calming. By the time you get to the green, which is like cutting your chives, you're like, okay, I'm cool. Everyone recognizes those colors. And so that helps with communication of the team. And you can walk around and look at all the clipboards and know where your team is at one way or another. And if you're the sous chef, you can say, man, he's got a lot of reds today. I'm going to bang out a few of his projects before he comes in or she comes in, what have you.
Yeah.
That's the prep side.
Yeah. So as it relates to, let's just take the double brown butter, for example, right? We all know if you make burn noisette, like it's got to be the right amount of time pulled off before it's burning, and it's going to carry over a little bit, and you got to add the milk solids when you do that. How do you make sure somebody does that right every time when you're not there?
We refire it all the time. I can't control it. That's such a great example because that's like out of 2 or 3 of the places, that's one I could tell you is kind of a little bit different almost every time, or at least one guy, he'll get really good at it. And it's time for him to, advance on to more different mise en place. And then he's handing it off to the next guy and I'm walking it in, checking the line. And I'm like, we open in 15 minutes. We got to make this again, and it's the smell, right? And also it's the carryover. Noisette, it's the carryover, right? It's going to go hopefully only one, but maybe 2 or 3 shades past where you're at when you're done cooking it. So that, although it's grammed out, you can't sous vide or you can't put a thermometer in and a timer on brown butter. That's not an easy one. That's a great example.
Yeah.
You're going to have that.
Yeah, there's definitely some where it's just real tough. I mean, I guess you have to get some pretty good like video or imagery. I bet there's probably a way if you have like a temperature controlled induction.
You have to stir it the whole time though.
And you
have to stir it so you're scraping stir in the middle, then on the outside, in the middle, and then the outside. You can't. Yeah. Now they have a couple of machines doing that, but they might melt. They're like plastic. Yeah.
The problem with these conversations, right, is that the cost to use that machinery and to innovate the type of machinery has to be relative to the value of the thing of the product you're going to deliver.
And then the customer, like, why is the Agnolotti lodi like $75?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, well, I had a robot make it,
It's so it's a conundrum we have, for sure in the food industry. Like I truly believe like the innovation bell curve or the arc, right? Of like how much we can innovate is directly correlated to how much people will pay for food.
Correct.
Because we could be, an order of magnitude farther along, but if it costs this much more and this many more people to do it and this much more R&D, we're just sort of relegated to how much.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of R&D, I'm curious. I mean, you've done a bunch of projects. You've won a ton of awards. Clearly, you have a way in which you go about creating new dishes. So I'm always fascinated with this. Like, what's your process? How do you involve the team? How do you synthesize feedback from customers or employees, if you do? And when does something feel done? Like it's in the menu, it's like done. That's a lot of questions.
It is a lot of questions, but no, it's a great question. These days, because I do have multiple projects and I travel and I, have things going on outside of this Miami, I do literally schedule my cooking. I need it. I'll email, I need XYZ products, available on this day, what have you, just like literally today. And I still make, and I say 99.9% of every recipe that goes on any of my operations, because that's what I do. People are coming to eat my food. It doesn't mean that I don't collaborate with my sous chefs on execution. We don't taste it again together. Absolutely. All the time. But in the end, it's my vision, it's my recipe, it's my food. And that's not a selfish standpoint. It's what currently what my customers are expecting. Right. So behind the scenes, it doesn't ever end. I came here, Oise, last week, and was kind of a different timing of the night. It was later in the day, and I sat down. I had a couple dishes, and every single thing we do here is kitted, where it's 90 grams of this, 80 grams of this, 12 grams of this, and it's timers and process, and there were still errors. And I sat down with my chef for quite some time to figure out where something went wrong. And one of the things was literally how they cut a tomato caused it to eat differently in the end. So we dug back all the way to, the beginning of the process and what went wrong. So I don't think it ever ends, which is super scary and super stressful. And you can put as many systems and gram scales as you want. And it's almost shocking. Like I almost walked away from that tasting like what could have possibly gone wrong for this to be so far off from a week ago when I created these dishes. And then you find out, oh, you blended it too long. One sauce it kind of killed the green because it was blended too long, which killed the bright herb flavor, which caused it to eat differently. It's just.
Yeah. It's also kind of fun, right? Because it's like a constant evolution of.
Otherwise you're kind of like dead, you want it to be.
What's funny is like, and you're very systems driven. I'm the same, but I feel like as chefs, we create a lot of systems for making things more efficient, for like making sure everybody does things the same way. But there's not a lot of systems of how to process and synthesize feedback externally after the dish is out, right? So like now we know this is executed exactly the way that we want. But then over time, like what if 40% of customers are leaving that tomato on the side of the plate, or left that little strip of, or asking for, a lime or whatever the thing is. Yeah, whatever the thing is. And it's like, oh, actually this dish, like, we have cognitive biases. We also just have our own subjective tastes, but maybe collectively, the broader taste is a little bit different. Do you think about like how to capture that feedback and then do it and take action on it?
I mean, I know I need it, and I haven't thought about how to capture it. There's a dish at another restaurant that every time I eat it, it's exactly how I designed it. It's fantastic. I had one of my old proteges come in who earned a Michelin star last year. He pulled me aside, said how much he liked this dish, and thought he knew how I made it, and he didn't, which was also fun. And then a couple weeks before that, I was having consistent reports of, we sold 20 of these, but one, did not like. And it's a pretty rare when you get a did not like, or at least a consistent one, right? What's going on? A couple days a week, they changed the cook on that station, and they just did not hand off proper. He was just going with his own natural motion. And it's, I think when you're cooking delicately, it's absolute layers that go into it. So I had to go basically figure out what was going on, then figure out who trained him, and then figure out why it didn't get handed over. And, we're still actually in the middle of the process. And yeah, if there was a better system to alert and find out, consistent, positive and negative feedback or constructive feedback, that'd be great. And difficult, I think, thing is for our industry, unlike, let's say like an AT&T. AT&T probably has like a really bad customer score. Like you call 1-800-AT&T, you're going to hate it. And we have to operate within between like an 88 and a 97 in order to like survive. And there's like hardly any businesses that operate that much.
It reminds me of a conversation I had a couple weeks ago with this really great chef, Caroline Glover, and we were talking about just the perception of the cost of food. Yeah. And I always think it's crazy that, so a buddy of mine had this review. He has an incredible restaurant in New York. And a review came out about, the prawn dish being like really expensive.
Because that's how much it costs.
And the thing is like, when you come and buy food at a restaurant, you can't associate it with how much would it cost if you could buy that in the store, which a lot of times you couldn't buy it anyways. But what would be the cost if at your house you were able to source that prawn and you had a butler and you had a maid and you had someone that cleaned up the whole dining room afterwards?
It's unbelievable.
And they thought about the music and the lighting.
It's almost like sometimes these writers are like offended if the business literally tries to survive. Yeah. It's unbelievable. And I see that so much. They're writing about the expense of the cost. Well, one, don't order the expensive prawn. I'm sorry. It's just like, it's always going to be expensive. This has been something that's irked me for years. And people's perspective of the value of food is completely skewed. And I could go a whole nother podcast on that, but it goes back to World War II.
Yeah. But you're not just buying the food. You're Correct. Buying like, when we went to Marigold's, right? Beautiful open space, right? And you can see the kitchen, and it's very clean, right. And it's very pristine, and the benches that we sat on were very thoughtful. Like all that stuff was thought through. There's a server that's coming to grab your water, and there's another server that's like replacing the your cocktail, and there's someone else that's explaining the wine. And that's not just the price of the prawn that is on your dish. There's this whole big space that you get to come into that's not your house, that has the right lighting and the right music. Yeah. And there's a price to all of that. If you go to, a spa without paying for a massage, right, just to go to the spa is $100.
Yeah, massages
just to be there,
several $100s and a good.
And that's extra. That's if you want the massage, that's extra. Right. Just for the privilege of being in this place that we made for you, Correct. you're paying money.
And you want to be at a restaurant probably twice as long as that.
Yeah, yeah. And you get to bring your friends, and you get to sit down, and people get to wait on you, and it's. It isn't the food is just one of the many things. Maybe we should start doing like shoulder massages. I don't know. Like it's bring a traveling masseuse.
Yeah,
it's like when you're at the poker table and they got the masseuse behind.
There's
you.
other places too.
All right, I'm gonna get a little bit deeper here, and you don't have to. You can go you can go however you want with this. Okay. But I talk to a lot of founders and CEOs, and I think about this so much myself. Of like this battle of separating myself personally from my business successes or failures. And that's not just like the macro success or failure, but every day, the micro successes and failures, and trying my best not to associate that. That's me as a person. And, with restaurants, it's tough because, when you start a restaurant, if it closes, for example, it's very tough to like disassociate that with who you are as a person. And that's an everyday thing. It's just not just when the restaurant closes, if you have a different review, or if you have to, I'm curious if you ever think about like how you personally like maintain mental health around businesses that you've had that close or don't close and or ones that are successful, because it's kind of both sides, right? It's like a business closes, you can immediately think I'm a failure. The opposite, a business does great and you think I'm great, and it's I'm always fascinated how others think about this, that are like creating things.
Yeah, I think I've had a lot of those thoughts in the last 4 years, going through post-COVID, myself my companies, my friends, our conversations, and I don't think they're in general. I kind of mentioned earlier when it comes to food and beverage or restaurants, there's this like X factor that isn't always about the quality or how good your product is. Sometimes places just happen to nail it. Maybe the right crowd gets attracted to it and it just kind of trickles and continues to grow and keeps going. And you might go there and you work your tail off your whole career and you're like, how does that place so successful? And you're like,
I wonder if we're thinking of the same place right now.
it's just, and I'm a consumer. I'm very open-minded to other people being very good at what they do and putting out great products. Cause when I'm off work, I want to go spend money and have a great time. Like that's what I want. So, and then sometimes you go to a place and you just cannot believe that place just crushes it so hard. When, you have a lot of friends that we do fine, or they're a little struggling, or they have a pop and then it dies off. None of that stuff can really be put your thumb on it. Why you're hot now, why you're not later. Some places get hot later in their lives. So I don't know if there's a particular answer to it. And these days there's so much nuance with social media and just being exposed in different ways to different crowds of people, that I think it's beyond the strategies of the traditional restaurateur any longer. And you have to be able to be open-minded. So how do I deal with it? I think I continuing trying to meet and understand that there's other nuances and people and talents that I don't have, that can either expand my mind or my operations mind and or add value to my operations itself. And actually, I think Oise is a great example of me personally allowing myself to do things very differently, and seeing its success and its young life is a testament to that.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man.
I think you just got to be, you have to be aware, you have to be willing, and there's a whole generation of TikTok that I don't know who those people are. They don't know who I am, but that might be the biggest thing in the world, and I'm the one not on that train, right? So I use that as a saying, but it also is inspiring me to explore new things.
So how does it personally affect you when you close a restaurant?
The closures I had were due to COVID, and then we sold the company. So that personally affected me.
I don't mean like, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but just emotionally.
Oh yeah, just about to get there. It was devastating. Even though there was some financial positive with the negative. There's that. I'd spent my whole career getting to a certain point, working to a certain point, to now sort of restart. And so, I personally basically created like a very thick leather skin, and I probably wasn't outwardly emotional for quite some time. I think I was dealing with it internally. Also at the same time, I was using it very strategically to be where I am now in a very short amount of time. Because I had stayed true to myself, but I told myself this saying, deja vu is seeing the same thing from the same perspective, but vujade is seeing the same thing from a new perspective. I wasn't going to change my career. I was going to change the way I looked at it. And I did. And it's prospering better than ever.
Yeah. I love that, man. I mean, I will say, I've had to close some restaurants, and it just, admittely, there's a period of time where I'm just like, I'm a failure. And then I get over it, and I'm like, okay, that's stupid. Obviously, like, everybody has businesses that
I did them all March 13th, 2020.
Yeah.
All four at the same time.
Yeah. Well, that, I think like, ripping the Band-Aid at once, especially during, at that time is this is probably the best way to do it, because you just kind of get it out of the way. But even like forgetting like closing a business, if you get a bad review or a customer
so
if a customer like comes in and says something, it's like, it's so tough for us, because in any industry where you're putting yourself out there, you're not an accountant. I mean, no offense to accountants. I love them, but you're putting yourself out there, right? It's like your food is a representation of you. In a way.
Absolutely.
Your business is a representation of you.
Everything,
It's just
yeah.
in the same way that if you're putting music out there or you're putting art,
Whether you like it or
you
not.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's tough you have to, by the way, you have to separate like that. That's a that's might
And
be a
you're not doing
representation of.
anything right if you're not getting a little bit of hate too. I mean,
Yes.
they say that, and that's a hard pill to swallow. But at the same time, I for sure have listened to music and said, "What is this crap? I hate this." And then there's literally 5 million people that own that person's album and that
Yeah,
love it, right?
yeah,
So
Yeah.
there's just different flavors for
Yeah,
different people.
it's just part of the course of
Yeah.
of doing anything like that, especially running a restaurant. But
I recently thought about a concept that like online, basically lunch, brunch, and dinner, completely different brand name that where you'd like pull down a wallpaper, change the lighting, change the music. And then so you could have it running because it's so hard to make money these days in restaurants. You basically are having revenue almost 24 hours a day. But since people don't want to go to the same place ever again, there's always so many options. You could be new at least 3 times more within the same space. I don't know if I have literally the life energy for it, but I think it would. Anyone take it? Let me know
Yeah.
how it goes. I'd love to come eat lunch, brunch, and dinner there.
yeah, you got 11-week-old. You got a little.
Yeah.
You get some more stuff in your hand. All right. Something else I've been asking lately is what makes you really, really angry? Like blood boil angry.
When somebody just like straight up lies, like look you in the eye and just straight up lies. I'm talking about in the kitchen and making food, and when someone just thinks that little of maybe myself, the restaurant, our environment, to just look at you in the eyes and be untruthful, and it'll take me a minute to figure out. I had an executive chef once that I saw a sauce from 20 feet away. I trained him on how to do it. It was on a new dish. I came from another restaurant. I could tell by the color. We use canned piquillo peppers from Spain or bagged. They're beautiful, high quality. And I knew that he had screwed up, forgot to order them, went to the grocery store, got bell peppers, burnt them on the stove burner, and then peeled them and made this sauce, which is so far from what I was looking for. That was one of the last straws. I wasn't there less than a week.
Why do you think he lied?
That's on him. I mean, because it was weak.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I struggle with this sometimes too. And honestly, not lately. I have a very different company now, but when you have cooks and they
Cover something up.
Oftentimes it's out of fear, right? It's like they're scared that they know they did
It's
it
gonna
wrong.
be way worse if I find out you lie.
Yeah.
I think my parents said that same exact line when we were kids. I mean, the relationship's very similar, but don't lie to me. It's going to be worse if you lie to me.
Mhm.
It's that same thing.
I will say, my babysitter once, I think when I was like 6 or 7, it was like, who took that from the basket? And nobody wanted to say anything. And she's like, if you tell me the truth, you won't get in trouble.
Oh, well, that line.
And I was like, all right, it was me. And then she like put me in timeout. I was like, what the fuck?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's, you want the kid to fall for that one.
Yeah. Well, all right, on a lighter note, when you're not cooking, I'm going to guess now when you're not cooking, you're just with the kids. But what else do you do when you're not cooking?
I like to just in general explore new things, and I think it's a silly answer, like travel, of course, but because I do have so many things going on professionally that it takes up a major majority of my time, sometimes weeks straight, because I'm in a building growth pattern, always have been, that I do like to escape when it is time to be away from work. And so that would hopefully some sort of traveling. I'd love driving, like road trips. So now that I have kids and my family, we have a dog, like I literally daydream about road trips. There's a lot of stuff to see in Florida, but it's one thing that's like, I want to see so much and like road trip wise and drive around the United States. And I like to, daydream while I'm driving. it'll take me, it's like 600 miles just to get out of Florida, you know, before I start seeing different things. So
What's the next road trip for you?
we've been talking about going to like Asheville, driving up
Oh
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful there.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous. Restaurants are supposed to be amazing. Great, like tranquil, you know, city town. Getting something in the mountains, you know, for a few days and letting the kids run around. And
So when you road trip, are you saying like RV type road trip? Or are you saying just hop in the car and?
right, we have a family Tahoe now, so I think we can do that for a little bit. But we fill it up. We fill it up all the way, for sure. I think I'm hopefully some time away from an RV. It sounds fun.
Yeah, my wife and I like
I wanna
daydream
do it.
about like just getting an RV, taking the kids, and doing a cross country trip.
Correct. Like I wish I had like a bunch of land and I could park an RV and park a boat and park a bunch of toys and
Can you rent? You can rent an RV.
totally. I'm sure it's like $5 or $10 a week. I'm sure it's
Yeah,
egregious.
yeah. It may not be worth it.
Yeah. First class tickets to Paris or RV to Arizona. Yeah.
RV in a trapped in an RV for a week with you.
Right. Exactly.
Well, is there anything that we didn't talk about? You think that or I didn't ask you that you think we should?
I mean, I do have to say you did cover a lot of topics that go through my mind and then also come up amongst other chefs and restaurateurs. You know, I think it's important. I think we lost a little bit of our drive as an industry from COVID. I think we lost some great minds. I think we lost some energy. Used to be kind of in it for the game. It's a little transactional now. So in general, I'm holding on. I'm staying true to, you know, the guiding light that got me here, that got me interested, that got me passionate. I just hope others do as well. The industry is always going to transition, but like, I think we need to get some of our passion back. And, you know, I think that comes with education and whether that means like passing the torch, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, we're in the middle of this transition. I think we will get through the hump. So, you know, stick with us out there, guys.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like there's what is that? So, no, it's all good. No worries. No worries. Yeah, you're all good. I mean, we
That's
can
my
edit it out.
partner.
Yeah. We're in a food hall of sorts. This is pretty dope. This is like
It's literally
like a restaurant.
Andrew's food hall.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. I love
This
this
is his
place.
own personal food hall.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is
How you
Andrew,
doing?
my
I'm
business
Josh.
partner here at Oise.
Nice to meet you.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
And vice versa.
Yeah,
It's an awesome
absolutely.
place, man. I love it. All right. Awesome. So yeah, to wrap up that thought, I think there's like this spectrum of art and commerce with food, right? For what was cool was for a very long time it was more towards the art side.
And the commerce would come.
And the commerce will come. Now I think it's, to your point, it's sort of like gone the other way.
Right.
And it's a pendulum. It switches back and forth. It is really tough to balance, man. Like you can't be straight in the middle because that just doesn't work. You kind of have to be, you know, either deciding to be more transactional. So you're like, you know, more commerce, and that's like a, whatever. I mean, it's still good, but that's like a Chipotle or like, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Cool. Transactional, fast, still good, but like, you know, like, and then the other side is just tougher, man, to be like more on the pendulum of art and still be able to have a sustainable business.
Correct.
It's tougher, but yeah, to your point, it's the only way we keep getting better is
Yeah.
that there's more of that. So
I know. I think we're in the middle of a bubble, a transition, a change of times, and you know, I think it's going to be worth sticking it out.
yeah, well, I appreciate folks like you keeping it going.
Thanks, man.
Anyways,
I
it's
appreciate
awesome,
this.
man. Cheers.
Great talk.
Yep. All right.